Mr. President, Your Excellencies, Mr. Mayor, distinguished national representatives of the CIESM member states, the distinguished chairs of the scientific committees, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It's for me a great pleasure to inaugurate together with the President of Portugal the 42nd International Congress of CIESM, the Mediterranean Science Commission. On behalf of CIESM and with the many national delegates who proudly represent their countries here today, I shall first express our warm gratitude to the Portuguese authorities, and above all to you, Mr. President, for encouraging this gathering. It is a great honor for our Commission to meet for the first time here in Portugal, a country that contributed so much since King Henry the Navigator to maritime explorations that forever changed the fate of humanity. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your warm words of welcome. It is a pleasure to find myself, and I think I'm not the only one in this room, to find myself in this beautiful city of Cascais, where I'm always happy to return. We are very grateful to the various sponsors for this event. Your generous support illustrates how, in Portugal, the perception and the culture of the ocean impacts not just scientific circles, policymakers, but also key socioeconomic actors of this great maritime nation. Your companies are increasingly involved in the fight for a more sustainable world, for a more sustainable ocean, for the conservation of marine life. Thank you for showing the way, and with a special note of thanks to the Lisbon Oceanarium that we will visit and that will kindly welcome us in a few days. Thank you also to the many Portuguese marine researchers who are with us here this morning and who are here at this Congress for the first time. The ocean is part of your DNA, of course, but your interest in joining forces and ideas with our Mediterranean scientists for the rest of the week is both refreshing and gratifying. Please let me underline also the tireless efforts of my ambassador here in Portugal, Enrique de Polinas de Barros, in helping the CIESM team prepare this Congress for the past 12 months. It could not have been any different. The links between Portugal and my country are ancient and very close, and they were shaped in large part by the sea. The name of Portugal is forever associated since the 15th century with the most glorious episodes of maritime exploration, the adventures of Vasco da Gama and of Magellan, who bravely launched the first circumglobal expedition some 500 years ago, are known the world over. They fuel the dreams of millions of school children, but of adults as well. In the late 1800s, my great-great-grandfather, Prince Albert I, was fascinated by issues surrounding the origin of species and their existence deep in the abyss of the oceans. It was only a matter of time for him and the King of Portugal, Dom Carlos, who was an enlightened naturalist, to develop a close personal friendship. They shared a keen interest in the pioneering science of oceanography. Their friendship, their intellectual complicity, led to the original scientific enterprises, starting with the foundation of different research stations, but most importantly, the meteorological stations in the Azores, so important today in global weather forecasting. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, while the golden glory of maritime explorations are now behind us, today's oceanographers are the marine explorers of the last frontiers, and I'm talking about the frontiers of science. I came to Portugal many times, always with great pleasure, ever since I was a 6-year-old boy. Many of these visits were related to the ocean. For instance, 2 years ago, it is from the island of Madeira that I launched the Monaco marine explorations. It is in the Azores that I visited the restored meteorological observatory, which bears the name of my ancestor, Prince Albert I. No one can ignore that Portugal mapped the contours of the New World. 5 centuries later, no one is surprised to see your country on the front line of the fight for the sustainable protection of marine resources. By meeting here today for this 42nd CIESM Congress, we're also launching the countdown that separates us from the second United Nations high-level conference to support the realization of SDG 14, which will take place in Lisbon from the 2nd to the 6th of June of next year. The overarching theme of the conference is scaling up action based on science and innovation for the implementation of goal SDG 14, stock-taking, partnerships, and solutions. And I do hope, and I think we all hope in this room, that this conference will hold great results. But thank you very much for hosting this very important conference. Reading the newspapers these days is like reading a catalog of disasters. Volcanic eruptions or deadly tsunamis look more natural than others where the hand of man is clearly visible. Frequent coastal floods, the glaciers in Antarctica and Greenland that are retreating, massive forest fires, the disappearance of many species of insects, mammals, sharks, seabirds, trees, the emergence of huge blooms of jellyfish, oceans of litter and plastics. You and I could continue this sad inventory for quite a while. But foremost in my mind are the risks that are associated with the issue of global warming. I just participated with you, Mr. President, to the Climate Action Summit on the 23rd of September in New York at the UN, where the Director General has pointed this out, only 20 countries, including both of our countries, pledged to become carbon neutral by the year 2050. That's still far too few countries. We hope that other countries may soon follow, but that will remain insufficient to reach the objective of 1.5 degrees Celsius maximum rise as long as major emitting countries do not align themselves. Take the impact of global warming on the ocean. With my government and my foundation, and just a handful of other countries, we took the initiative in 2015 to call upon the IPCC panel to produce a special report on the oceans and the cryosphere. As you know, a few days ago, the authors of the IPCC special report presented their alarming conclusions at the Oceanographic Museum in Monaco. This report anticipates extreme weather events for the next 100 years, increased marine heat waves, storm surges, extreme events like El Nino and La Nina, tropical cyclones, wildfires, and as just mentioned, the frequency of such events is sure to multiply very soon and at a very rapid rate. Massive problems like these call for joint actions, and our Commission is very present in this sector, served by its unique network of associate marine stations and labs, and by its proven capacity to engage cross-basin initiatives over the long term, like the hydro changes or Jelly Watch programs. Our current efforts to track tropical signals and to help harmonize marine policies with new research findings offer a good case in point. Our research is, I think, of global relevance. The Mediterranean Sea is a very fragile sea, highly impacted by man, but also highly monitored by an array of marine observatories. As such, it is a barometer of the world ocean, providing early warning signals on ecosystem changes that are far less easy to detect in the vast, remote, open ocean. I always find it inspiring wherever I am confronted with nationalistic fervor, as in certain sport arenas, to think about this unique CIESM ability to mobilize and to unite researchers from cultures that are so different. What strikes me in my visits to different labs, not only in marine sciences, but in other disciplines as well, across the world, are the similarities among different researchers. They all show the same genuine enthusiasm for science and for discovery. Political leaders could learn quite a few things from scientists when it comes to transcend strictly national interests for higher pursuits. At the same time, messages of researchers cannot be heard just by other scientists. To have a greater impact outside of academia, scientists must increasingly engage with civil society. This is what CIESM promotes and will be illustrated by various Congress panels that will explore different innovative ways for marine scientists to cooperate with fishermen, with the business sector, and with other stakeholders. On the same line, and as discussed by our board yesterday, oceanographic explorations should be allowed easier, faster access to the EEZ of other nations, on the condition, of course, that the research vessels produce better, faster delivery of scientific results. CIESM has proposed its mediation in this process. And our commission will continue to be a bridge, a facilitator, if you wish, but between all shores of the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, and the adjacent Atlantic waters. As the Director General reminded us, it is only by strengthening our collaboration with Portuguese scientists that we will better understand the dynamics and trends of biological, physical, chemical exchanges between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. We have a lot to learn from one another by comparing our latest findings on these different topics, on geohazards, on biotechnology, on deep sea biota, threatened species, contaminants, and invasive species, sharks, seabirds, and other issues. So Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends, you can count on my keen interest and enthusiasm to facilitate all the steps of this collaboration. I wish you all a very productive and an excellent week marked by many fruitful exchanges and many creative new ideas. So it is my great pleasure now to officially declare open the 42nd International CIESM Congress. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.